I just realized that after I made that Charlie Kirk video, I forgot to add my original point. And I'm just going to talk for a minute about this because it's that important. It doesn't make sense. It's just one more thing that doesn't make sense about all this. If you haven't seen that video yet, I'll link to it below. You need to see it. But let me just get straight into this because it's wonky. There's a lot wonky about this. Now, I'm not one of those people saying that Charlie Kirk is still alive or any of that shit. But the crime does not match up with the person or even the person on the roof. They're saying that he left the gun in the woods. It doesn't make any sense. Even leaving the gun in the woods doesn't make any sense. They're saying that he had it stuffed in his pants here. That's what people are saying. And you can see him running across. Do you know how long a 30-06 is? It's like 40 to 44 inches long. It's ridiculously long. You could not jump off a roof with one. But that's not my point. My point is, if he left it in the woods with these political messages on it for them to find, just like how Robert Couch, I believe that was his name, left the AR at the scene so that they would know it was an AR, right? Why didn't he just leave it on the roof and run? He's not leaving here with a gun. Okay, you can tell that. It's just a backpack there, if anything. Why wouldn't he leave it on the roof? If he was going to leave it in the woods, why wouldn't he just leave it at the crime scene? This doesn't make sense, man. They would just drop it on the roof with the political messaging to find it, and he'd be out of there. He wouldn't have to carry this rifle with him that he was going to ditch in the woods anyway. It doesn't make sense, dude. And he's not running with a rifle. There's no rifle. If anything, if they have photos of him limping or walking weird, it's because he popped his ankle when he jumped off this building that is what, probably 15 feet high, 12 to 15 feet high. He probably fucked up his ankle and it was hurting after a while. If he is walking weird, that's what it's all about. This doesn't make sense. He doesn't have a rifle here. Finding the rifle in the woods doesn't make sense. The only thing that would make sense is finding the rifle at the crime scene, which it wasn't. Put yourself in those shoes for a minute and try to understand that motive. If you write down all your political messaging, really small print, on rounds that are left behind, and on the weapon itself, your intent is to give them a clue as to what happened, why it happened, why you did it. That's what you're doing. You're signaling. You're preaching. Why didn't he leave it at the crime scene? So this alleged 30-06 got magically from the roof to the woods where they found it. Now they can't account for why it's not on his body, so they're saying that he stuffed it in his pants. Now somebody online said, well, those weren't skinny jeans. They're skinny enough, dude, when you look at them. Come on, you know what I meant. Bots can't understand nuance. They're skinny. I said thin, skinny or thin. You don't have a 30-06 with a scope stuffed in those jeans. Something else is going on here. Was he shot from further away by somebody who was much more skilled? You need to keep in mind that police and the feds already had 2 to 3 suspects in custody. Then they come out and say, nah, they were released. This is the guy. Go after him. And here he is in his slim-fitting jeans. Very slim-fitting jeans. But remember, you've never seen an image or a video of this guy with a gun. Not once. You just see images of him walking on foot, on camera, but no rifle. A rifle that cannot be taken apart or broken down very easily. A rifle that is 40 to 44 inches long or longer. The most common barrel length for these rifles is 24 inches. These are large guns, especially when there's a legitimate scope put on them. Someone didn't use a red dot for this. They used a scope. Put that together with the fact that most of these are, again, 40 to 44 inches long, and there is no possible way that he is hiding a 30-06 with a scope and a pair of jeans that size. They're slim-fitting jeans. Not to mention, none of the images show him with a gun or something large enough to carry a gun of this size. This is suspension of disbelief in action, because there are simply no incriminating images of this guy. Only people claiming he's the one, he's the guy. In fact, the entire story is secondhand. A secondhand story with no incriminating evidence when we live in a world where someone can't even steal an Amazon package without leaving a massive trail of digital evidence behind. And just like the rest of these stories and narratives, We have a narrative with absolutely zero damning evidence where we can say, ah, yeah, there he is carrying the rifle. There is literally zero evidence or substance. They were looking for this guy. We don't know what's going on. And again, the gun had all this writing on it. The ammo had writing on it. This is preaching from the weapon left behind. Why wouldn't he leave it on the roof and book? Why was it found in the woods? It doesn't make sense. If you're preaching, then leave it right where it's at and run. And again, there is no footage of him carrying a 30-06 rifle with a scope. Show it to me and I will totally shut my mouth and eat my words. But he was limping because he dropped off a 15-foot roof, man. He probably fucked his ankle up. Easily a 13 to 15-foot roof, at least. This is suspension of disbelief. We never ever see a weapon, ever. But no one is going to run with that weapon that we never see through a crowd, through people, just to hide it in the woods to be found later when they are preaching with that weapon. They are going to leave it at the crime scene. It doesn't make sense. And that is it for now. Look out for Charlie.